Welcome to Comic Book School. Apparently, we own, or you own, Tuesday nights, and I occasionally rent a portion of them.
All right, sounds like something good.
There you go. Well, so this week I am your substitute teacher, Ruth. Usually I do a pop quiz. This week, not so much. I know you're very disappointed about that, Michael. How about?
I am. I love a good pop quiz.
Mm-hmm. You usually do fairly well on them, have to say.
I'm very smart.
You are. This week, our fearless leader, Buddy, who isn't here, wanted us to start talking about the New York City Comic Con.
What's the New York City Comic Con?
Well, let me ask you, Michael, where is the New York City Comic Con held?
Baltimore.
Close. It's held in New York City. And when is the New York City Comic Con?
January 8th.
No, that would be October 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, I think.
Basically, it was close on both of them.
So close. Baltimore and, just like right next to each other.
Yeah.
But Comic Book School this year has, well, guess how many panels they have at the New York City Comic Con?
37.
Close. Really, really good. Good effort there. Everyone, good effort. Got three.
Yes, I had the first number right.
Exactly. So, you were within 10% of being right. So the New York City Comic Con, they've got a bunch of guests because it's New York City. So, people come for
stuff.
People come because it's New York. It's New York. Yeah. Did you go last year? Are you coming this year?
I did not go last year, nor will I be coming this year.
So, I was trying to get this year, but it doesn't look as though I'm going to. So it's really, really good that we're talking about it.
You should just show up and say, "Do you know who I am?" And they'll let you in.
I think that they might. It's like, I am Comic Book School's substitute teacher. Do you not know? But one of the things I wanted to sort of talk about, there's like a lot of guests, there's a lot of panels, there's always special announcements, special events, special issues, things that get published and put out just for an individual con. And
Buddy's going to be there.
And Buddy's going to be there. And Buddy's going to be part of it. And so as to not spoil the surprise, we're going to let Buddy tell you himself. And we're going to talk with my friend and yours, Todd, about just sort of generally how this stuff gets put together. So hang on 1 minute.
All right.
So hey.
Hi, Todd.
How you doing? Hi, Mike. Hi, Teach. How you doing?
Todd.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I cannot get this to work for me.
You gotta hit the button. Hit the thing.
Really? Have I got to hit the button?
Hit the thing with the thing with the thing.
This is why Mike obviously went to technical school because he knows all this.
There you go.
I also knew where the New York Comic Con was.
So, Todd.
It's not in Perth Amboy?
No, it's not. So, Todd, I know you're not involved with the New York Comic Con, but what can you tell us about, what do you know about the New York Comic Con in general, and what do you know about Comic Cons in particular?
Well, for years and years, I was a trade show warrior that went to Comic Cons regularly. Probably more than we've got time for here, but...
Well, normally, one of the things that we do at Comic Book School, and Mike, tell me if I'm wrong, is that we come in from the attitude of we've got a lot of folks who are either in the industry or interested in being in the industry. True. So Buddy's probably going to walk us through how he went through his panels and what he's put together and and how to get a panel. But like, how does somebody? What can you tell us about how somebody would put together a presentation for a panel?
Well,
is there something unique to what you're doing that makes you qualified to speak to this?
I don't know if it makes me qualified, but the leading question you're trying to get to is that I'm helping pull together the panels for the Baltimore Comic-Con, which happened 3 weeks after New York. If I'm doing the math
basically
right.
It's Halloween weekend.
It's Halloween weekend, yes. So come on down to Baltimore for a scare. So yeah. And as it is with a lot of Comic-Cons and comic book conventions, because it's essentially panels is one of those other quotients, kind of like, you get to go meet get to meet the artists and the creators and see all the cool merchandise and buy your new t-shirt or your new pop figure or whatever. But you also hopefully get to learn something new about comics in this case. Or
wait, what?
Yeah.
I thought Comic-Cons were only to talk about the upcoming movies. You're telling me they actually talk about comics there?
Sometimes, yeah.
Next, you're going to tell me you can buy back issues.
No. How dare you?
Shockingly so, yes, it's true. You can actually buy these things called comics.
So you're telling me you go to a Comic-Con.
It's in the name, Comic-Con.
Yeah. It's not about a bunch of guys like Gilbert Gottfried standing up there and talking all day. God rest his soul. Anyway, but so yes, so basically that panels programming, that's another aspect of a Comic-Con, because you want to learn more about what are these things, or because you're just looking for a place to go take a load off for an hour because you've been walking the floor since you got there at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're a little tired. Whatever the reason, there's these cool things upstairs usually, or kind of on the periphery of the hall, that have creators talking about where they came up with their ideas, or in the case of people who usually come to this show, probably figure out, what kind of pencils do you use, what kind of ink do you use, how do you come up with that great design, do you do it on a computer, are you old school and do it on a piece of paper, whatever you actually do,
Mike,
so
yeah, Mike, when you come up with your ideas, do you do it all on the computer? Are you old school and do it on the pen and paper?
I write it on the back of my hand.
You write it out. Okay. Do you use a stylus and papyrus, like the melted wax in the way of the ancient Egyptians?
No, I used to use the melted wax, but it was very hot and burning. So that's
not conducive to the California. Okay.
I still like stone tablets and chisels myself.
It takes a long time though.
It does, yes.
Gotta be
but it gives me
committed.
time to work my thoughts out nicely. Literally
So, if somebody comes, if you were to put together a panel presentation,
yes.
I know that it's a couple of weeks before New York City Comic-Con, and the deadline has long since passed. What's generally a good deadline to put together, or what's generally a deadline to put together a show, a program idea?
They're going to want to have it pretty much finalized on their side, on the con side, about a month out at the latest, maybe. So 6 weeks in a row is probably would be really pushing the deadline. You'd probably be better if you did 2 months to maybe even 3 months out. You want to start the conversation with whomever. There's usually, as there is with, in my case, helping with the Baltimore one, although I'm not the only what's the word I'm looking for, contact. There are other people that are part of the program that you could also reach out to. That basically pitch an idea, and if it gets past the pitch stage, then you kind of formulate more of an outline and who your panelists are going to be, if it's going to be more than one person.
Well, yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is it like when Mike decides that he's going to come to Baltimore, New York, does he just sort of say, "I'm Mike Fasolo, I'm going to show up, maybe wear the robe, maybe not wear the robe"? Is that going to be enough, or
no.
Is that or no?
No, they're going to probably want to know.
Do you understand the power of the robe?
Todd hasn't seen the robe.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I think I have seen the robe actually, because I do occasionally watch this show.
I occasionally watch it as well.
But I mean, basically, it's like, you know, are you looking for name brand? If Frank Miller, you know, I know Frank Miller is going to be part of Baltimore.
Right.
If he decides he wants to do a panel about, if Frank Miller decides he wants to do a panel about Mike Fasolo and the Rogue, is that good to go because it's Frank Miller, or
probably, yeah, because it's Frank Miller. I mean,
it's Frank Miller.
There are a few. There are a few people out there.
It's the Rogue.
It's the Rogue, yeah. Especially
in
Richard Burton come back to the Rogue.
If it's somebody you've never heard of, but it was a great idea, or is it?
Yeah,
or is it Frank Miller and you don't care what he wants to say? Yeah, it's a balance.
I mean, normally it's typically people that are going to also be at the show in some other capacity, either as an artist sitting in an artist alley, or as a representative of one of the companies at a booth, or something like that. Partially because of logistics, because, you know, there's the added challenge of if you literally are showing up at 10:30 in the morning on a Saturday at the Javits Center to walk in, get through the crowd, get to a room, talk for an hour, and then leave. That's kind of major efforts just to try and talk for 40 minutes about something.
I just looked up who's going to be here. There's going to be a ton of people here
at the New York City Comic Con.
They have like a bunch of guests of honor. Brandon Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Jay Fox, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, and probably a lot of those folks, similarly so, like with the Baltimore show, they're going to have 4 of the Disney princesses.
Oh.
It's like New York City Comic Con is one of those. You know, Anakin Skywalker shows up pretty much every year. There's a couple of folks who are just sitting there, and it's like either local. Celebrities. George Takei, I believe, shows up every year at the New York City Comic Con.
Anson Mount, all the Star Trek nerds are going to go nuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he probably has something to talk about because
that's part of it's like at a New York at a Comic Con, at the New York City Comic Con, at the Baltimore Comic Con, and a lot of them, the TV stars show up. If you remember when we went to Eternal Con, we had we had so many great, you know, Bionic Woman, the $1 Million Man, Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
exactly. It was great. In addition to the comic book creators, etc. So it was like a lot of fun, and it was something that. But you know, and at the New York City Comic Con, Buddy Scalera will be there,
as well as Daniel Radcliffe.
I often think of them in the same.
Have you seen the two of them at the same time? I mean,
but for the rest of us who are, you know, trying to get there, it's like, so you're getting a proposal in, getting it early, and like 1 page, 2 page, 30 pages. Like Mike, when you're putting together an initial idea for a script, or is it like 1 page, 3 page, 5 page, 12 pages? Is it? I mean, you're saying you're writing it on your hand. Is it like a 2-hand?
It depends, you know. It depends on the idea and who you're pitching it to. Like if they're like, "Oh, just give us a 1-pager," then give them a 1-pager. But sometimes people like to have intimate details about everything. Then you got to do more work. Ugh.
I mean, is there? I would assume there's a form to fill out, or am I wrong? Or
well, I can't speak to New York's, but I suspect there is there too. But yeah, for most shows, and Baltimore's one, we have a standardized kind of little thing on the website you can go to that basically put in who you are, something about your background, the general concept, what you want, a little quick, you know, pitch blurb, a couple of sentences or so of what you're hoping to do with it. And if you've got links to, like if you're an artist, if you got links to your website because you put out the book, or if you're a web person, so you've got a web page that you help run, or you're a podcaster, or if you're an educator like Buddy is, who's got a school site to reference, because that way it gives us a chance to figure out, okay, who you really are, gives you some credibility of who you know, what you're talking about.
And do you set up the special events as well?
Like the signings and stuff, you mean? Or
Yeah.
No, actually, luckily I don't have to do all those headaches myself. There's a team of idiots running these villages. So, but yeah, there's and a lot of that is basically, that's where it all works together in terms of like, okay, we know we want to have, Frank's going to sit here and sign, for example, for these couple hours, and then if Frank Miller actually wants to do a presentation about either things he's already worked on or something he's got upcoming or whatever, then we give him a spot and he gets to sit and talk and do his thing for an hour or so, and then work in the next person. So yeah, typically, like I said, it is kind of a balance of if you're pitching both being a panelist or a programmer or a presenter, along with potentially pitching to set up and be a exhibitor / artist creator on site, which also makes sense that from your perspective, because then you're going for all 3 days and you're probably getting connections and a chance to talk with your fans, and if you've got books or art or whatever to sell, it's worth your while,
because it's all about the fans.
Yeah,
it is. Well, it should be. So, but what comes first? Is it a situation of getting Todd's got a point?
Apparently I do.
He's got a lot of points.
I thought I filed it down, but I guess.
There you go. But so is it a situation, I just want to be clear, do you because I know sometimes it's hard to get professional status at a Comic-Con.
Right.
And then even if you get professional status at a Comic-Con, sometimes that just means you're getting a reduced rate badge. You're not getting in for free. I mean, Mike, all he has to do is wear the robe, and he gets in anywhere.
Yeah,
right.
But the rest of us. So what? So if I'm trying to do a situation where I'm trying to get professional status to be into a show, do I do this alongside doing a panel and things? Do I do it do I do it first?
Normally, well, for a lot of people, it's especially if you've got something you'd ideally like to talk about, you kind of do it in tandem. You potentially reach out and go, hey, I'd like to have a booth or a table or a spot on the show floor. I would also like to do a panel or be part presentation. And like in some cases, there are creators that are already planning on being there, either because their publisher's bringing them or that are going to set up on their own because of whatever reason they want to go to the show. They know they got a fan base, etc. That then they'll basically reach out to us and go, hey, I'm going to be there. If you're looking for someone to talk about old X-Men books, I worked on one of those for a few years. I'll gladly sit in, wherever you want me. Just
so if Chris Claremont showed up, he'd be like, hey, I'm Chris Claremont.
Exactly.
I'm not as cool as Mike Fasolo, but I'm trying really hard to be.
Right. If I get the robe, I'll have it made, but
Yeah, exactly. But like Chris Claremont would not sit there and put together a proposal, but he would sit there and say that he'd be willing to talk about X-Men or writing dialogue in comic book or writing accents in comic books and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but then I get to go back to your other point. It's like if you're someone kind of new to the scene, it's good to have some sort of almost like a mini version of your resume, your like online profile. It kind of shows, if you have been published, what you've done, or if you're just working on stuff, shows at least what you're, developing.
So Mike, what would you be good for a panel at a Comic-Con or at the New York City Comic-Con? Ooh, do they do fashion shows?
Sometimes. Actually, that's kind of, normally they do costume contests because
that's true.
And actually, again, at the Baltimore show, that's actually one of the things they're going to do is they're doing both a costume contest for those that want to get into actually showing off that they made a cool costume. They're also doing a separate fashion show for people that just want to show up in costume and look cool.
And does anybody ever at the Baltimore Comic-Con, does anybody come and cosplay as Mike Fasolo in the robe?
I'm copyrighted. You can't do that.
I don't know. Not that I've seen yet. But I have to keep my eye out this year. That's plus,
So
Yeah, and then
and it's like no, and I so again, it's like I'd heard some cons, if you show up in costume, do they let you in for free, or do they give you a discount, or is that something you have to arrange ahead of time? Or is it the reverse of like, if you show up in costume, you have to go through extra protocols because they're afraid you might have, thermonuclear weapons in there?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much sadly in this day and age, if you show up in costume, there's a good chance they're going to want to actually check out your gear. Make sure that you're, not carrying an unauthorized thermonuclear neutron pack on your back. But, you can have something that looks like one. It just can't actually have the...
You can't have it before. Okay.
You can't actually have the plutonium in it that will, arc light into another dimension.
So we've got a question.
Sure.
Now, again, I've been to the New York City Comic-Con. Todd, you have as well. Mike, have you ever been there?
Oh, I've been there, yes.
So, and Mike Potts wants to say, what's the recommendation for first-timers like himself?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really big show, and I think it could, what's the generic type of advice? Like, where do you go first? Personally, I like to hit Artist Alley. Well, sometimes I like to hit the publishers because I'm finding more and more there's not as many publishers there.
Right.
If I have a shopping list, I like to look and see, what might be available, but I like to wait until the very last day to actually do my shopping. But I like to hit Artist Alley pretty early on to see who I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I would say go in and just check out the basic floor first. All the comics, all the booths, and all the stuff that you're looking for, like all the
yeah.
toys.
I mean, we've talked before, and Todd, what's your thought? Just depend on what you're there at the Comic-Con for.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably when you initially get there, you probably want to kind of give at least the main show floor a cursory walkthrough just to kind of get a sense of what kind of scope you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably at that point, my recommendation is if you're actually going to do some shopping, save that towards the tail end of the day, because that way you're not just schlepping the 60,000 bags and that really cool statue you bought everywhere you go.
That could be a problem. And and the New York City Comic-Con, by the way, it's new and hip and whatever. So there is not a map. There is not
online anymore.
It's an app. It's an app. And wait, so we have a thought from our audience. We do booths first, and then Artist Alley, and then figure out panels. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, usually while I'm walking the floor, I'm trying to do a quick thumb through of the guide, whether it's online or physically in front of me. And
the New York City Comic-Con stuff, like I said, they don't do. You remember that printed book that you walk around and get the various artists to draw in and do things with? It's like, and then years later be like, oh, cool, I have the 1994 Chicago program book or image in the tent and everything. But no, so they don't do a printed book anywhere. Paper has gone away. So, but you can get the app, which is potentially good because depending on how early they release it, you might be able to get it right now. You might be able to download that, do the research, find out. Because above all, the important part is that you attend every and all comic book school panel.
Yes. Well, Buddy and I had a thing on here where you should have a plan of the places you want to go. You get that book, and then you can check off where you want to be and when you need to be there. Then you don't have to be rushing around.
And now that it's not a book, it's an app. They must have it available ahead of time, so you can walk in.
Yeah. To an extent,
you can walk in. You can have a plan
and scan the thing with the thing.
And the CBS panels are a must.
Yes, comic book school.
But again, it's like, it's good to know. It's good to know who the. It's good to know what the publishers are, because we've talked about it in the past. If the publisher if the publisher's got people showing up, if they've got an editor, nobody's looking at the editor. They're looking at the artist. They're maybe looking at the writer. They're maybe looking at the colorist. Nobody cares about the letterer. But like, am I
Todd
wrong?
does, and that's all that counts.
John Workman.
But again, like the editor usually has some time, and so you can go and meet the editor, and if the publisher sent one there, because the editor's not gonna, he's not gonna have a space in Artist Alley, etc. He'll be sad and lonely and want you to come and talk to him and make friends, and then he will give you a big, huge contract. Right? That's how it works, right, Mike?
That sounds good.
Possibly.
That's exactly how it works.
So, Todd, we have a tradition here at Comic Book School where we ask, what do you know now that you wish you could tell your younger self? So specifically when it comes to cons, and not only just going to cons, not going to cons as a fan, but potentially, but going to and trying to get some work or increase, or network or things along those lines. I do like, the comic book resume. That's a good thing to have. It's like a little thing. And I think Buddy's mentioned something to that effect of like having a piece of paper, having some documentation. It's just good to go, and having it ready ahead of time. So you can you can give it to somebody. It's like, my other show, which is the Com Nation. My other show, if somebody asks me, I've got a pitch. I've got it right now. I can send it to you right now. Do you want to see it? I've got it right now.
Yes.
Okay, hang on, let me click it. No, but it's like, but having it ready to go that shows you're organized, you're professional, and there's like just no downside. You can sit there. Come on, it's the digital age. You can email it to everybody you meet at the show.
Yep.
But so that's good advice. But is that the advice you would give to your younger self, or what would you tell to your younger self?
Comfortable shoes, no matter what. One, because you will be on your feet a lot.
That's true. That's a good one.
That's I mean, it also kind of depends on what you're going to do. It's different if you're an artist than if you're like a writer, because the one advantage people have who are artists when they show up in these things and they show you a couple pretty pages is there's an immediacy there. Whereas if you're a writer trying to get a script to somebody, they're not going to have the time to sit there and pour through it while they're sitting there. So you kind of need to be more prepared in terms of having a pitch idea or a concept that you can talk to somebody about, and be, like you said, if you've got an idea for a script or a story idea or whatever, have that ready to go so that you can, if you make the connection, you can email it.
Yeah.
Right after the fact.
Get their info so you can send it later.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, you want to be able to jump on that because, again, it shows that you're ready and that you're, meeting those deadlines, because editors like deadlines.
Are deadlines important in comic books? I mean, those are all flexible, right? Nobody cares if the book's 3 or 6 months late, right, Mike? That's the way. Because
no one cares about deadlines.
In animation, you can do it like right before it goes on, like an hour before the show airs, right?
Sure.
Half hour, maybe.
10 minutes. That's all you really need.
When Bugs Bunny draws that and Daffy Duck suddenly they're talking, things like that, right?
/S people. It's important. It is important if you want to be taken seriously in general. But it's important in comics that you are organized, that you are on time, that you show that you can do deadlines, that you are responsive. Because nobody wants to collaborate with somebody who's a clump of clay. A lump of clay. Nobody wants to collaborate with someone who isn't wearing a robe.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for that.
You got to have your 30-second pitch, and then basically you should also have your slightly more elaborate pitch. Because if you get that first nibble, especially if you're finding out an editor who's actually got a few minutes to talk, you do want to kind of have in the back of your brain the 10-minute more elaborate one you can dive into if they give you that opening.
Can you imagine what would be worth? It's like, that sounds cool. Tell me more. So Mike, what's your 30-second? So, all right. So that's us at the half hour. Mike, what's your 30-second pitch for your
30-second pitch is I got to leave. I got a dinner to go to.
Okay. That's a great pitch.
It's a good idea.
Todd, thanks for coming. I'm going to toss you in the green room, and I will talk to you later.
Bye, Todd.
Bye, Todd. So yeah, that was fun. It's basically be organized. Like I said, New York City Comic-Con, they're cutting the cost. There's an app. Take a look at it. But above all, comic book resume is good to have if you're going to the Comic-Con to try to network. It's good to have that. And you don't have to have physical copies. You can have it, you can have it on your phone. You can have it in the cloud.
Yeah, and check out the New York City Comic-Con website before you go, so you know what you're doing and where you're going.
And make sure that we don't have Comic Book School has panels on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, and past that, Buddy will talk about it next week, won't he?
Sure.
All right. We will see you all next week.
Wow, that was abrupt.
Yeah, sorry. You gotta go.
I gotta go. I got a dinner.
And I got a show. I'm doing we're doing Zorro tonight for Latin American History Month or Hispanic American History Month.
Nice. Well, enjoy yourself. And I'll see you whenever you're back on again.
Take the sword, leave the tamales. See you later. Bye.
Bye.